Want a real vibes only, unfiltered take on just about anything and everything? Entrepreneur, best-selling author, speaker, and busy mom, Chelsea Husum shares her unapologetic views about life, business, and this beautifully imperfect hot mess world we face each and every day with lip service and lashes. Now here's your host, Chelsea Husum.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lip Service and Lashes podcast with Chelsea Husum. I am so excited you are here. I have an amazing woman on the show today, my friend, Paige Killian. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
Thank you. All right, you guys, Paige, she is the founder and CEO of Everything with Style, her professional organizing company. She's a wife, mom of two, multi-award-winning keynote speaker, host of 2 top-ranked award-winning podcasts, best-selling author, book launch and speaking coach, and mompreneur strategist. So pretty much she does it literally all, everybody. And she does it well. Paige speaks to women around the world about the importance of getting organized, embracing change, and pivoting with confidence. She shares how to do this with her simplified 3-step goal-setting strategy that eliminates overwhelm and inspires action. So I am so excited. I feel like we could talk for 5 hours, but we don't have that much time because we have stuff to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So thank you again. And it's funny, when I was on your podcast and we've chatted, we don't remember how we met or exactly because we saw each other at a bunch of different events and we're like, wait.
Yeah, it's so funny because I think running in these same circles of all those personal development conferences and summits and different things like that, it's like, when did we actually first meet and connect? Because it just feels like when we go to those things, it's like, oh, there's Chelsea again. Oh, I'm so excited to see her again. So
I know.
Yeah, who knows our origin story? But the point is we immediately connected over not just business, but mom life, didn't we?
Yes. And so we are fellow Land and Hill Press authors. You have your amazing podcast. And so her podcast is Time to Pivot. She has a book, I've Got You, Girlfriend, which you can share. I love that title. But tell us a little bit, how did you end up to where you are today? And like kind of how did you maybe pivot to get to where you're at today?
Sure. I'll walk you through it kind of quickly because with that intro, you can see I've sort of bounced around quite a bit, but the common thread is that I have this skill set that I love working with that helps other people and typically helps other moms. And at the same time, I'm prioritizing my family. So when you and I were actually talking about how are we going to make this fit in a short-ish episode, we were like, there's so much to talk about, and who knows, maybe later we'll have another conversation, right? Exactly. But really, truly, what's happened is my life has been a series of pivots with some commonalities, some common threads in them. I was a former elementary school teacher for 15 years, and I loved that so much. I joke that I lived on light bulb moments and hugs, and the best part is I loved those kids to pieces, and I got to give them back at the end of the day, right? Give them back to the parents. And so then I had my own kiddos, and what a blessing. But you don't get to give them back at the end of the day. You actually have to figure out how to, if you are a working mompreneur, as I say, you have to figure out how to continuously prioritize your family, which is obviously super important. And I'm sure to a lot of your listeners, that is such a priority. And also not shortchanging yourself in the business world. When I was teaching kindergarten and second grade, I loved it so much. It really gave me so much. And I also felt like I was contributing to these adorable littles in an impactful sort of way. So that was great. And then first my daughter came along, and then my son came along. And whenever you start that second time around with parenting, you think like, okay, I can do this. But if you're given a child who has different needs, then you're like, wait a second, I don't have this all figured out. I have to go back to the drawing board for a couple things. And you and I
Yep.
have talked about that a lot, Chelsea. So what I discovered is that my son was going to need a little bit more help and assistance from good old mom, and making sure that I was making myself more available to him. And that didn't really fit very well with my structured schedule being a teacher. And
Oh
I
yeah.
made the tough decision, and you know what this is like too. I made the tough decision to leave something good. I loved my teaching
Mm-hmm.
job, to move on to something great. And at the time, I thought, this is spending more time with my son. This is getting him to necessary therapies. I'll go ahead and just let you know, because we're very transparent in our family, that there's ADHD involved and dyslexia. So we've
Okay.
been
Yep.
on that road to really
Mm-hmm.
navigate how can we support him in the ways that he needs, making sure that he's able to transition from grade to grade in schools, giving him, again, not only what he needs, but also what we need as a family, because there are therapies involved where we're needing to maybe either take him out of school to work on something, or maybe after school or weekends and that sort of thing. So when that became very apparent to me years ago, I knew I was going to have to leave my teaching job. When
Mm-hmm.
I did that, while we were working and doing those cold therapies, which were so helpful and beneficial, let me just say, moms, if any of you are dealing with this right now, just know there's hope, and you're going to get
Yes.
to the other side, even when it's stressful. And when
Yep.
we were seeing some of that hope that you and I have talked about,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I miss working. What am I going to do? That
Yeah.
question set off a conversation that I had with a dear friend and my business coach, Kelly Mobeck. I credit so much of my pivots to her. I go to her as also a fellow mom. She gets it. And
Yeah.
as a business coach, she said, what are your strong suits? What are your God given gifts? How can you turn that into a business that's going to allow you to still be there with your son and your daughter too, right? She still needed
Mm-hmm.
mom as well.
For sure.
And so what ended up happening is I started my professional organizing company, and I was able to go into busy moms of littles homes and help them get organized. And I was able to do that on my own terms with my own time schedule, could take on clients as I needed. That turned into people saying, I love this 3 E's philosophy that we're using to get organized. You should put this into a book. So ended up publishing my book with Land and Hale Press. Soon after, started my mom's organization, Motivation Podcast, and that skyrocketed, and which yours is going to too, Chelsea. It's going to be
Thank
amazing.
you.
That ended up being a huge success because that was during the pandemic. The
Mm.
funny thing is, a necessary pivot came along when the pandemic hit, as a lot
Yep.
of us know,
Yep.
and I couldn't go into the clients' homes and organize because we were having to quarantine, put masks on. Remember those
Mm-hmm.
days? Ah!
Yes. It seems like it's now years ago, but it's like it
Yeah,
doesn't seem that long ago. It's so weird.
it's crazy. And
Oh,
I think there were conversations about how in some ways there were silver linings, slowed a lot of us down. We got
yeah.
to really prioritize what meant the
Mm-hmm.
most to us. We
Mm-hmm.
got to spend that extra time with family that maybe we hadn't had so much before, but it was a
Yeah.
hard time. And navigating a business during that time was
Oh,
really, yeah, right? It was really unknown. It was really stressful.
yeah.
And so I thought, okay, I'm going to start this podcast so that I can still stay relevant, so
Mm-hmm.
that I can still be known as the person you go to if you do need some help getting organized. And so I started teaching people how to do this using my 3 simple steps. My 3 E's philosophy is your essentials, enhancements, and extras. And I would say with getting organized, your essential thing is doing a good purge. And so with all of us
Mm-hmm.
being at home, we had time to actually go through and get rid of anything that really wasn't serving us, we didn't need, our kids had outgrown, we
Yep.
had outgrown. After that, the enhancement to that is deciding, am I going to sell this stuff? Am I going to donate this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then the extra, that third and final step, is styling of the space. So putting in proper containers, organizers, maybe putting a label on something that's helpful. So that really took off in the organizing world with my 3 simple steps, the 3 E's philosophy there. And as I continued working with these clients, getting back into their homes after some things let up a little bit with the pandemic, and I was able
Mm-hmm.
to go back to that. My son was thriving. Yay. Again, you'll
Yep.
get there, guys, you'll get there.
Yes,
Uh,
you will.
Son was thriving, doing so great. So that gave me the opportunity to then take on more coaching clients. I was working virtually with people, so all over the world, if they needed to get organized, we could
Mm-hmm.
jump on Zooms, we could do these organizing packages together. That then got me talking to them about what happens after they feel more organized. So it was
Mm-hmm.
yet another pivot where it was like, okay, wait, what are we talking about now? Because now that you're feeling organized, how do we talk about then what's super important to you moms? I was
Mm-hmm.
working with moms at the time. Um, and a lot of them were like, I want to know how you started your own company. How do you start your business? How do you start a podcast? How do you write a book and get it published and get it to bestseller status, which Chelsea has too. Yay.
Yeah, look at us.
Yeah. So I started having conversations with them about starting a business or a
Mm,
podcast or writing a book. Then Samantha Joy, the incredible, we love her.
yes,
She reached
yes.
out to me from Landon Hale Press and she said, we would love for you to actually start coaching
Mm-hmm.
these aspiring authors to be. And so now I am pivoting again and I am
Mm-hmm.
working with these incredible authors who are interested in getting their important message out into the world, as we did with our books that we put into the world. And along with that came a shift in my podcast. I started the Time to Pivot podcast. That's the one that you were just on recently.
Yep.
So, all of this to say that so many things changed in such a beautiful way. And I actually credit so much of my son for this because I would have still been
I love
teaching.
that.
I would
Mm-hmm.
have missed all of these beautiful opportunities to connect with these other moms and talk with them. And again, just continue to go through those pivots. And so
Mm-hmm.
now the big thing is I'm coaching other people through when you are up against it and you're figuring out, am I going to
Mm-hmm.
lean into this change or am I going to resist it and be afraid because I don't know what's coming or because it's really hard or I don't want to change. I've got a good thing going here,
Yeah.
but feeling like that's necessary. Well, we ended up talking about that on the podcast. You and I did. I now work with people, coaching them through
Mm-hmm.
using those three simple steps. Again, the 3 E's philosophy to set and accomplish those super important goals to them and stay on track. So so that's it. That's a long-winded version of how I got from there to here, but I do credit so much of having mom life be a huge guider in that and just trusting that I'm going to prioritize what is most meaningful to me, which is my family, and I think the business will follow. And it has.
I love all of that. I have like 20 questions like floating in my head.
Yeah.
I forget that we were both teachers. I do. I
Yes.
forget. And so I totally agree. And we were meant to end up where we're at, right? And so first of all, I have to say I love what you do with going in and helping women organize because I clutter blocks so much energy. It is so many people have so much stuff in their house that it just adds stress. It takes longer in the day. It literally blocks energy. And so I love that. I read a long time ago that you should be able to walk into every single room and feel peaceful and love every item in there and it's clean and everything has a place. And if not, literally go through every room until you do that. So I did that years ago. And then I do a huge purge. I go literally into each room every year and say, okay, are we good here? Yep, we're good. And it's just everything has a place and it just reduces stress. So I love that you help moms tackle that because sometimes that's like, it's so hard to get over that hill, right? So that's
Yeah.
amazing and so
Well,
useful.
I'm so glad that you said that too and brought it up because I just want to say when I decided to make that pivot and start coaching people in the way of their businesses and what
Mm-hmm.
it is that they're wanting to do, we always start with what does your physical space look like? Because you
Yes,
nailed it when you said it that physical clutter actually becomes mental clutter and it takes up space in
totally.
your brain. And when
Yes.
that happens, it's impossible to think about moving forward because you've got stuff in the way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. You're right. The physical stuff definitely can become mental clutter as well. So we tackle that first, and it's
Hmm.
really wild how getting that stuff under control. And we do it simply. Look, because let's just be honest, if we are busy moms of littles, especially if we have multiple ones,
Yeah.
it is easy for those rooms that you're walking into.
Oh man.
Yeah, to feel like, wait, didn't I just clean this and it's a mess
Yeah.
again? And so it
That was me
has to be,
yesterday. I was
yeah,
like,
for sure.
for the love of God, children, I
Yes.
just did
Like we've
this.
talked about this. We've totally talked about this. Yeah. But that is something too that I'll coach my clients through and just saying, don't melt down. There is a
Hmm.
way to acknowledge that, yeah, they got to bring stuff in sometimes. And then how
Yes.
can we simplify this and make it so easy so there's not the arguments, there's not the stress. And a little key to that is have less. When you have less,
Yes.
there's not so much to keep organized.
Exactly. It's so much easier. And I also like yesterday was walking my children around. I'm like, please come in here. This room was clean 10 minutes ago. I need you guys to understand the importance of us now teaching that and modeling it for the kids, that we're not slobs. We don't just throw stuff everywhere. And
Yeah.
there's Halloween candy wrappers. I'm like, it's like there was an animal, a wild animal in here who just like is just mowing through candy, people. Like, can we not? So I think that is important for us to, for you to help women do that. But we as moms it's really important to model that for our kids. So I love that. Um, okay, so back to your son. I love this. And my son has dyslexia too. And we were like, just touched on that at the end of the episode when I was on your podcast. And we're like, we need like a whole nother episode for this, just specifically. But it's hard, and I still have like PTSD from seeing the school district's name come up on my phone. I definitely say quite a few choice words, and I still do. And then
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, we just wanted to let you know this random thing." I'm like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah.
But what we had to become advocates for our sons. What do you think? What were the biggest things that you kind of had to fight for or figure out for him that helped him thrive? Because I love that he's thriving right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we got to celebrate these kiddos too. And we're
We
saying
do.
sons because it just happens to be both of our
Yes.
sons, but
Yes.
daughters as well. And
Absolutely.
we just have to celebrate those wins. That's so huge. And I love that you, well, no, I'm going to say this again. I actually hate that you experienced that same feeling that I had when I would see the school call. I'd be like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, what's
What
happened now?
now? I know.
Yeah, and how am I going to stop? I'm literally elbows deep in a client's closet organizing with her right now.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to stop and go up to the school to pick him up for? Like, what's happened?
Yes.
And then additionally, because let's be honest, it especially with dyslexia, we have found, I have learned that ADHD and dyslexia a lot of times go hand in hand,
Yes.
and you will find that too if you guys are in the middle of this and there's any type of
Mhm.
struggle with just sort of learning, arming yourselves with the knowledge that you need to support your kids. You will learn that some of these things do go hand in hand, and instead of fighting them, I mean, this goes along with pivoting and being
Mhm.
willing to embrace change with confidence, not really knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
Becoming an advocate, as you mentioned, for your child means arming yourself with knowledge, means meeting with everybody that you can. It also means being really real and saying, look, I was a teacher too. For us, we could say this: I was a
Mhm.
teacher too. And I understand that it can become disruptive or extra work for
Yeah.
you in a classroom if you're needing to deal with a child's extra needs. I understand that. So,
Yes.
meeting them where they're at, sort of validating how they're feeling, like, I just want to acknowledge that I appreciate that you're there. I started
Mhm.
referring to them as Team Duke. So my kiddo's name is
Mhm.
Duke, and I would be like,
Cute.
"Yay, Team Duke!" And when I started saying that, it's like they immediately got on board and they wanted to be more supportive and
Mhm.
encouraging. And if something did come up, instead of calling me to be like, "He's had a rough day, can you come pick him up?" I
Mhm.
remember having a conversation. I went not only to the teacher, but I went to the head of school and I said, I would like to, and this comes with advocating for your kid,
Yeah.
I would like to have a conversation about the words that we're using to describe my son's day. Because what
Mhm.
I'm being told now, granted, this was preschool days. This was
Yeah.
TK days. Okay. So
Okay.
they're little, they're
Yeah.
immature as they should be. They're little.
And they don't
And
know
we
what
were
they're dealing with, right?
totally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at that time, we didn't have any sort of diagnosis. And so we
Mhm.
were just trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Although I will say I had a fairly good idea of what was coming because teaching kindergarten, I
Mhm.
saw
You
a
yeah.
lot. I saw a
Yep.
lot of the stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
In those early days.
Yeah.
And so I ended up saying, can we change the vocabulary instead of saying he had a rough day?
Yep.
Because that insinuates that the, 6 to 8 hours that he was with you, it
Mhm.
was hot mess.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that is fair. To clarify, he will have like a rough couple of minutes where he makes a choice that isn't great, where he's really struggling to keep in control of his body.
Mhm.
And then we will make that correction. Sometimes there's some redirection. Then he comes back. And then for an hour, we're going through the school day as we should. He's moving on to different classes and transitioning. Okay, fine. And then he comes back and whoop,
Mhm.
looks like there's some sort of other incident. There's some other thing that pops up. And I was
Yep.
like, okay, so can we actually say there were a couple of instances in this day today that really threw us off? We needed some redirection. We needed to have that conversation about getting him back on track, making sure he's being respectful in the classroom or, whatever it
Mhm.
is. I'm just like
Yeah.
saying what it could be. And then moving on. And what I learned about my kiddo when I say celebrate the wins
Mhm.
is, and now this was like we ended up going with meds for him after a couple years of me being like,
Okay.
do we
Yep.
really have to go that route? Okay. Um, Once we did that, that was definitely helpful. But we needed to celebrate the wins before he got some of those helpful meds that he
Yeah.
desperately needed. We were in a position where he desperately
Yeah.
needed those. And I'll just tell you, it has changed our lives for the better.
Yep.
Don't knock it till you try it. And it doesn't mean they have to be on it forever. It doesn't mean they have to have a
Exactly.
big dose. But
Yes.
that's what we needed. And so having that conversation change around it being a rough day and also just saying, I
Mhm.
need you guys to celebrate that hour that he goes where things are great, where you're looking at him and you're acknowledging, like, hey, I see you're staying in control of your body. You're doing great. I love this work that you're doing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
It was a
love
game
that.
changer for him. He's like, oh, wow, I'm not just getting in trouble all day. I'm
Yes,
getting some compliments and some encouragement. Yeah.
I love that. And it's what I've experienced too. I'm sure is the same for you is, you know, I love that you took initiative. Can we change? Because yeah, he didn't have an 8 hours of a horrible day, right? It was a thing. He got back on track. Let's celebrate that, right? But acknowledge it at the same time. But I even had to, after kindergarten was just absolutely horrible. We're still working on it, rebuilding that confidence. They
Yeah.
they get in it that people think they're quote a bad kid, even though they're not saying it to them. It's how some people are reacting to them, and that just breaks my heart. Can
Yeah.
you kind of talk about how, if you experience that as well, and like how, besides them celebrating, how did you work to rebuild his confidence?
Oh, sure. Let's just call it like it is. He had conversations with me where he's like, I feel like I'm stupid. I feel like I'm always getting in trouble. And I was like,
Yeah.
guess what? I feel like I'm a bad mom. I feel like they
Mm,
think I'm not a good mom and I'm not doing a good job because
mm,
we're trying to figure this out together. So if you're in
yeah.
that place, say it, own it. Be like,
Yes.
hey, I think I'm doing a bad job. And then you let Chelsea and I tell you, you're not.
You're not.
Mm-mm.
No.
Because the people who question if they're good kids or if they're smart or if they're good moms, the people who are questioning those things, those are the
Mm,
people who are great because the
yeah. They
people who,
care.
yeah, they care. The people
Yeah.
who are not making the best choices, who are not doing the best job, they typically are not super focused on working toward making things better. And so they're the
Mhm.
ones that we need to be having a conversation with, like, hey, can we give you some help? Because it seems that making these choices is a little difficult for you. The ones who are like, oh, I feel like I'm dropping the ball. I feel like I'm da 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 da. No, you're beating yourself up, and I get it. And we've both been there. But the truth is, you're a great mom, and it's
Yes.
not linear. The
Mm-mm.
path is not straight. it is all kinds of windy and up and down and roller coaster city. So
Oh
just
yeah.
know that you're in good company. It is okay. It's going to be okay. I'm going to keep reiterating the fact that there is hope. You will get to
Yes.
the other side of this. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to give those kids who have extra needs. And look, I've now learned a lot about myself as well. I think I'm
Oh,
seriously
totally.
undiagnosed with some
I
of
think
these
I
things.
am. Yeah, me too. But
Yeah.
we all just made it through somehow, right? Yeah.
Yes, we did. And they're going to as well. They're going to make it through. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think building that confidence back up, I think owning it is the first thing. And just saying, look, one of the things that we talked about with my son is you can actually say to people, my brain doesn't work that way. Like
Yeah.
I'm having trouble controlling my body. I have these
Mm-hmm.
sensory things that are going on. I can feel
Mm-hmm.
really overwhelmed to sounds, to light,
Yep.
to too many things going on, to too many people talking all at once, or like
Yeah.
something going on in the background and me trying to have a conversation. Just own it and say, I'm feeling sensory overload.
Mm-hmm.
I am struggling right now. Can I take a break? Can I just stand up while we have this conversation? Or can
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's like it's giving them the tools that they need that makes them feel better. So if you don't know what the tools are, two things. Number one, ask them because they may know. You can say, when you feel like you're doing your best work, when you feel like you feel the safest, what do you think is happening in that moment? And let's do more of that. Let's intentionally do more of that. And number two, do your research. I mentioned the 3 E's philosophy I used with getting organized.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm talking to a lot of people about embracing change and pivoting with confidence, how do we do that? The first essential of, we go back to the 3 E's, is do your research because you're immediately going to feel more confident when you're doing your research about something that you're going into. So in this case, it's me arming my child and myself and my husband and my daughter. Uh, some days our dog, we've got our French bulldog sitting over here in the corner. He came
Oh,
in and was a real help for our kids as well.
I'm
But
sure.
arming people around you, including the teachers and the staff who maybe
Mm-hmm.
have dealt with this before, but you know what? They haven't dealt with your kid yet. So
Exactly.
arming them with what they need to know that your kid has either expressed that they need or that you've done this research or you've done these tests and we found that this is how their brain works better. The second step, so do your research. Second step, focus on one thing at a time. So
Mm.
I know that when my son needed me at that time, we needed to all rally and go all in. And that wasn't the time that I needed to be starting a podcast, launching a book, starting my own business. I needed to focus some
Mm-hmm.
time really specifically on him to do a lot of that good research. And then the final thing, the extra, ask for help. So again, just going to these people that you're working with, whether it be teachers, administrative faculty, staff, like whoever it is that's coming in contact, church leaders, like if it's things are happening in your church, whatever, and just saying, I know this is tough for you and it's tough for us. And how can we get on the same team and support this kiddo in the best way that they need? And so just really giving yourself and your kid the tools that they need to succeed, it's going to up that confidence factor. And we, by the way, took a break for a little while from like birthday parties, extracurricular activities. We kind of hunkered down for a little bit and
I love
just
that.
had him be with us for a little while. Your kid's not going to miss
Mm-hmm.
out. Okay. There's going to be plenty other opportunities for them to go to everybody's birthday party. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we hung back for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it was like there was enough distance so people weren't seeing like, oh, here's the kid with the reputation.
Yeah. And yeah,
So
kind of just let him rest and take care of himself because they're
yeah.
dealing with all these other testing, therapists,
Mm-hmm.
psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, I know my son, he gets to a point where he's over it and I can't blame him. Like it's just a lot of extra. And I
Yeah.
want to say, I love all of that. And they're not just acting out. Like when we kind of started seeing things when they were younger, they're actually crying out for help.
Yes.
They aren't just little baby kids aren't waking up every day being like, I'm going to go be a jerk and
Mm-hmm.
just make people's lives difficult. No, they are struggling internally and then it's coming out in their behaviors. So, yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, if you're listening, like you are not alone. You have to put yourself out there, be kind of a nice bitch, let's just say a very nice lady but you have to have boundaries and you have to have a backbone because you're going to go in these meetings and you have to fight for them because it's not just all going to happen. Like
Yeah.
you have to be the squeaky wheel and just keep going and make
Yeah.
them know you're there.
And can I explain one example that really showed up for me?
Yeah,
Listen,
please.
I'm a like good old Southern Baptist Christian. Okay, I'm not looking for confrontation. Okay, I don't like it. I feel very
I don't
uncomfortable.
either.
It makes you want to throw up. But at the
Yes.
same time, I love my kid more than
Hmm.
I'm worried about that feeling. And
Yes.
so what ended up happening is we were having quite a lot of meetings with the school. And a couple of times the school was asking us to do some other things that they thought, look, they're coming from a good place, okay?
Yeah.
They're trying to make sure you have everything that you need to thrive. Great. I acknowledge that. Simultaneously, we were getting overwhelmed. It was too much. And they weren't giving us enough time, enough break before we were
Mm.
then on to the next meeting to talk to the next person about the next thing that we needed to do. So
Okay.
I actually had our doctor write a strongly worded because I had tried having the conversation with them. I had her write a strongly worded, still very respectful. We're still staying respectful
Yes.
letter. And I was happy to hand deliver it. We sent it in an
Hmm.
email as well, but I hand delivered it. And I said, I'm having some thoughts and feelings about being overwhelmed by all the things you're asking us to do. Every time you ask us to do something, you say jump and we say how high. We now are at a place where we need a break. We need to stop. We need to have some time to implement these things. I do the same things with my clients. I'm like, okay, we're actually going to take this week break or this 2 weeks
Hmm.
break. You're going to go work on these things that we've talked about. I'm an email
Yeah.
away or a call away. And we can chat if you need to, but let's actually have quite a bit of time go by so you can sit with this for a little bit
Yes.
so you don't feel the stress. So I'm not feeling the stress. Let's sit with this. Let's see. And also, I'm huge into praying, and I like to be able to I don't do this very well sometimes, but just be quiet and just be still
Mm.
and say, God, what would you have for us next?
I
And
love
so
that.
that was really important. I reached out, I asked for help, and I asked my wonderful doctor to write some strong words to make sure we got the point across
Yeah.
immediately. That was like, it was almost like cease and desist. What's that called? What? Wait,
Yes.
cease and desist. Oh my gosh. I said,
It was making sense. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
hilarious. Cease and desist.
Yes.
And it was almost just like it wasn't actually, by the way, we're not talking about like lawyers involved. It's not
No,
crazy.
but
But it was like we all needed a break. And I
yes.
actually think that when that happened, it gave them a break to not have to constantly be thinking about my
Yeah.
Duke. And so, guess what happened? He wasn't top of mind anymore. He was floating under the radar now, and they were on to worrying about some other kids. And
Wonderful.
so, yeah. So there really is a place for that. I'm glad that you mentioned
For
that. There
sure.
really is a place for you to be assertive and say, look, I'm not trying to be
Hmm.
disrespectful here, but I'm going to
Yeah.
draw a line. We need to draw the
Yes.
line.
Yeah, gosh, all the meetings. Yep. Still like it was yesterday. But I
Yeah.
remember going in and saying, we support you all. We're here. Whatever you need from us, we support you. But also when we would come with things, and I remember I had talked to these women at the district level and that were the dyslexia specialists, and they were so helpful. And they were like, okay, you're going in for an IEP meeting to get an IEP. Mention this name and this name. This person has sued the district because they weren't meeting SPED requirements. This person is an advocate for dyslexia in the state. They're going to know their names. And they were telling me to name drop these people
Yeah.
so that they knew when I'm in the meeting that I've done my research. I know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Right.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, okay. She's not just some clueless lady, right? That's coming in. Like I've done the research and talked to people. So I love all that. All right, we're going to wrap it up a little bit. I want to hear one more thing though. So you are doing a million things like me, and I feel like we're multi-passionate. We just and we're just like putting our energy into things we love, right? And we do the ebb and flow for if our family needs more time or whatever, right? My question is kind of what are your top strategies? And I'm not saying this is never perfect when we're trying to do this, but what are your top strategies for you balancing it or protecting your energy or setting boundaries? Like, what are your top, like, let's say 2 or 3 things that you really feel helps you thrive?
Thank you for acknowledging that it's not always going to be perfect and it's not always going to be the
Nope.
same.
Yep.
Yeah, because we go through these seasons, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
during that time, for example, I really leaned on my husband a lot. Not everybody has that, and I'm very grateful for it, but I leaned on
Mhm.
him because I said, I feel like I was the teacher who was very accepting of kids who
Mhm.
had some extra special needs that we wanted to focus on and give them that time. And I said, sometimes I don't feel like I'm getting that, even though I
Mm.
can't
Yeah.
state enough that like our school was amazing. But I wasn't feeling like I, as the parent, was
Mhm.
getting that extra love and that acknowledgement that, like, hey, you're
That
doing
you
a
were
lot.
giving people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so, with that, I said to my husband, I was like, and I'm a words of affirmation girl. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
about the 5 love languages. My
Yep.
love language, yeah. Okay,
Yep.
my love language is words of affirmation. And I needed someone to tell me, Paige, you're doing a great job.
Mm.
And so I I talked to my kids about that. I talked to my husband. I talked to my mom, who is wonderful. My dad
Mhm.
too. Like they've been very supportive. But I just let them know. I was like, you know what, guys? I know this might sound silly, but if you could just drop me a line every day, not every day. Nope,
Mhm.
nope. That sounds like a lot. Every now and then, that's what I
Yeah.
said. Although every day was helpful. If you ask enough people to do it every now and then you've got somebody doing
Becomes
it every
every
day.
day. Yeah. You're like, yes.
But I just was like, if you could every now and then just either drop me a line or pick up the phone or, whatever, and just be
Mhm.
like, Paige, you're doing a good job.
I love that. And sometimes
Yeah.
we like wish they would do that, but sometimes you just flat out have to ask, and that's okay because they don't realize.
Yeah, and you know what else too is like when I said that, they're like, Paige, oh my gosh, of course you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
I just like you just seem to have this on lock. You just have things figured out and you've
Mhm.
got meetings set up and you've got like you seem to be trucking along. Like I didn't know that you needed me
Yeah.
to step in and be like, you're killing it. And I'm like, well, it feels good. So like
It
that's one
does.
of the yeah. So, ask for what you need. Ask for what you
Yes.
need. And don't be afraid of what that might look like. I didn't care if it was going to make me look dumb or weak or whatever to be
Mhm.
like, can you just tell me I'm doing a good job?
Oh,
You
I
know?
love that.
Um, Also, this is the silliest thing, but I needed a shower or I needed a long drive where nobody contacted me. I
Mhm.
needed things that took me out of the situation for a little bit. And I
Yeah.
needed to not feel guilty when I took those times. And that's really hard. And so I, again, would say, I need to take these drives and not be interrupted. And when I get home, I need you to not immediately be like, I need this, this, and this from you, mom,
Right.
because I don't want to feel guilty that I had to take some time away
Yeah.
and then come back, and it's like, all
Yes.
right, I'm going to make you all snacks and I'm going to make sure you have food and then
Yep.
I'm going to duck out for a little bit. And when I
Yep.
come back, what I would love for you to do is be like, mom, how are you doing? How was that? Do you need
Oh,
a
I love
hug?
that. I
Okay,
love
good. And then I would,
that.
yeah. And then I would get my hug and I would get my verbal confirmation that I was doing
Yep.
okay. And then I would be like, wonderful. What can I do
Yes.
for you?
And you could actually enjoy that time you just spent alone, kind of, yeah, in it. I love that. I love that. Paige, you're amazing. Ugh, I love this. Again, we could chat. We could have a 20-hour marathon podcast. I would love to have you on again. Please tell everyone where they can get your book, where they can listen to your podcast, where is best to follow you, all the things.
The best place to go for everything is my website. My organizing company is Everything with Style. So if you go to everythingwithstyle.com, then you'll find all of those links there. But I'm on Instagram and now, shockingly, I've given in. I'm on TikTok. And so
Oh, you've gone to the dark
both
side.
I went to the dark side and I'm here for it. So I'm on
Ooh.
Instagram and TikTok at Everything with Style Mom. So if you want to go there, you can find me there. My book, it's called I've Got You Girlfriend, Why Getting Organized and Living This Mom Life is Not a Solo Mission. Right, because it is not. I've Got You Girlfriend is over on Amazon as well. You can check it out. And there's an audiobook, so you can get it in 4 different ways: Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and on audiobook. So if you are a podcast lover, maybe audiobook is the way to go. I will say, if you actually get the physical book, you will see that there are several places in there where you can write directly into your book, making lists of like, this is what I want to get organized, this is what I should purge, this is what I want to put in place. So it does give you some of those places that you can jot down some things, but also you can still jot that down on a piece of paper if you would like to get the audiobook as well. And if you do go to everythingwithstyle.com, you can get a free PDF that just starts getting you on track, whether it's getting organized or starting a new business or doing something that's important to you. And that's my 3 E's checklist. So over on everythingwithstyle.com, if you go under the services tab, you'll see that there's a little place that you can get your 3 E's checklist as well to get you started.
I love that. Thank you. Everybody follow her podcast, get her book, just follow her because she's awesome. I so appreciate you. Like, there's people out there that needed to hear this. So thank you so much. And you gave them hope. And we're examples. Like, you can make it through, you guys. Just keep going.
Yes.
So thank you so, so much. And everyone, this has been a Lip Service and Lashes with Chelsea Husum. Just remember, no BS, just real vibes. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Lip Service and Lashes with Chelsea Husum. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Chelsea and her life as a hot mess mompreneur, head over to chelseahusum.com. And be sure to follow her on all social platforms. Thanks for listening, and just remember, no BS, just real vibes.